Hi, I'm Andrew Brandt, back for another week of the business and legal aspects of sports, sort of a weekly update. Here's what's going on this week. I want to talk a little bit about this incredibly burgeoning topic of daily fantasy sports. We've talked about it before. And then sort of raise an issue that came up last week for anyone watching the NFL with Reggie Bush slipping on the turf, on the concrete surrounding the turf, rather, in a stadium, and whether there's any legal liability there. First, on DFS, and as anyone who's watched sports over the past 6 months knows, it has come upon the marketplace in bold fashion. Two companies, FanDuel and DraftKings. Daily fantasy sports, it's not your father's fantasy football league. We're used to fantasy sports as sitting around with a bunch of friends and family, drafting a team and getting together each week and sort of talking smack and then seeing the results at the end. Well, that's again has changed. Now we have daily, we have algorithms, we have people doing high frequency trading, you have people treating it like the stock market, and then what's happened is these two companies have achieved extraordinary market share and what I call mind share with a barrage of advertising and promotional activity over the past couple months. Primarily, it seems, on NFL programming. People have even said that NFL seems like a infomercial about daily fantasy with some football interspersed in between. I guess my question here is what happens now? We have inquiries from state and federal regulators about how to get their piece of the pie with all this money coming to these two companies. We have lawsuits, both insider trading lawsuits, lawsuits from users, consumers that feel like they were promised to win and didn't. And now we have our first lawsuit from an NFL player. Pierre Garcon, the Redskins receiver, has sued FanDuel, who actually he used to be an endorser for and no longer, on the theory that they're using his name, image, likeness, gaining money off of him, profiting off his name in a way that they shouldn't. I think that's an uphill climb, that lawsuit, because I think it's been a Court of Appeals decision before saying that stats, which is really what fantasy is all about, stats are not part of a private domain, right, of publicity for a player. Rather, they're more in the public domain and anyone can use them as news. So I think Garcon, which is kind of the pro equivalent of the O'Bannon case, suing for name, image, and likeness used for profit, is really going to have a uphill climb. But we've got lawsuits, we've got regulators after these companies. In the run-up to all of this, as I said, they achieved extraordinary mind share as two of the most fastest growing companies in the world, probably valuations close to $1.5 billion at this time. From an NFL angle, let's look at that because that's the most top of mind sports league. Roger Goodell has said, we allow it, we think it's outcome based. It doesn't affect team outcomes. Not outcome-based. It's only individual-based rather than team outcome. But you can make the argument that nefarious aspects of gamblers and gambling can get to individual players about their stats, making them even more susceptible than team outcomes. So I don't know if that argument flies. He also says that unlike Major League Baseball, which has invested in DraftKings, and unlike the NBA, which has invested in FanDuel, there is no league investment in any of these companies. However, the NFL has got to be careful here because Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, has invested personally, or his Kraft Group has, in DraftKings, and so has Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys. So if this is termed through regulators gambling, what is going to happen then? Who's going to have that uncomfortable conversation with these two owners about potentially divestiture of these investments, which are seeming to be profitable as these companies continue to grow? That's something to watch. So the DFS angle is not going away. Again, fantasy sports is a $30 to $40 million participants. Daily fantasy continuing to grow. I have students that do it all night long. Not only football, as everyone knows, it's NHL, it's NBA, it's college football, it's college basketball. And you can, as I hear, I don't know, I don't play myself, potentially game the system. That's going to call for regulation, and we'll see where it goes. Another issue, Reggie Bush, the famous football player now in the San Francisco 49ers, ran out of bounds Sunday at St. Louis's Edward Jones Stadium, ran out past the sideline to an area that was concrete, not padded, but concrete, circling the field and slipped and tore his ACL. He's out for the year. What's the liability there? First, with Bush, no liability in terms of contract. There may be punitive damages, but he's paid throughout the year. Question I would have is, what about loss of earnings? Now, he may be at the end of his career, but you can always argue that whatever he has left after this year is probably less, maybe this much less, maybe a lot less than what he would have left but for tripping on that under unexposed concrete or exposed concrete that made him less valuable. That's something to watch. Then you talk about legal liability of Edward Jones Stadium, of the Rams, of the 49ers suing the Rams, the 49ers suing Edward Jones Stadium, suing whoever operates the stadium, whether it's the city of St. Louis or not. All of this against the background of St. Louis wanting to get out of St. Louis, at least the Rams, and move to LA. A lot of things to watch there. My sense is will be some talk about lawsuits. It may not happen, but I would say who is ever operating that stadium, whether it's the city of St. Louis or Edward Jones Dome has its own private operators, they better check their insurance policies right now. That's our update for this week in business and legal aspects of sports. We'll be back next week. I'm Andrew Brandt.